Thank you everybody for being here. This session is being recorded. I'm Sandy Hannigan, instructional technologist, and my co-presenter is...
I'm Lauren Woodman. I am the instructional designer, and this session is Otter in the digital classroom. We've coined it Otter.ai accessible. If you've just joined us, or if you have some time, if you have a second device, or if you're comfortable navigating on your computer, I recommend that you download Otter or go to the Otter website, because later on in this training, you're going to have a chance to try it out. So you can, in your app store, whether it's Google or Apple, you can search for Otter voice meeting notes. And if you're going to a website, that's Otter.ai, and that's OTTER, like the animal. And then when you sign up, it'll ask you to sign up for an account. It is free to sign up. You're going to sign up with your Microsoft or your NCC credentials. So I'll give everybody a moment to do that. And welcome, William.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you. Sorry for the delay.
That's okay. We're just getting started.
So William, just so you know, we are recording this session, and I've just given instruction that if you have another device or want to go to a web browser, you can look up Otter in your app store, or you can go to the Otter.ai website, and you're going to sign up with your NCC credentials.
Okay. Sounds good. I will do that now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So this session is talking about Otter in the digital classroom and accessibility. And when we talk about accessibility, it's something that most of us as instructors are probably familiar with, whether it's providing accommodations for a student who needs extra time on a test, making sure our videos are captioned. We've been exposed to it. There are several things that can arise when making sure that your course is accessible, and some of them are really easy. Sometimes it's your fonts or your colors, and others, like captioning or providing transcripts or providing alternate text for graphs, those can require more time and consideration. So this is a tool that we're going to show you that can help you further that goal, foster a more inclusive classroom, and provide accessibility for video and audio content. So we're going to start with UDL, Universal Design for Learning, and then we're going to show you Otter. I'm going to pause for a moment. I see Lynette has joined us. Welcome, Lynette.
Hi, thank you.
Hi.
Sorry, I had a class at 11.
That's okay.
Just finished.
No worries. I just want to let you know we are recording this session. And if you have another device or can open another web browser, we're going to be using Otter, so you can go ahead and start signing up for that now. It's a free app. It's free to sign up. You're going to either search for Otter, Otter voice meeting notes in your app store, or go to the Otter website at otter.ai. All right, So Universal Design for Learning, what is it? How many of you, by either a show of hands or using your voice, have heard of Universal Design for Learning?
I have.
Okay.
Awesome. So I see we've got kind of a mix, that's fine. So Universal Design for Learning is a framework to help you create a learning environment based on kind of three pillars. So the first pillar, and this, I know that this graph that you're seeing to the right, this visual is a little bit hard to see, but there'll be links to this in the presentation. There's also a fully accessible and audio version available on the CAST website, which is where this is from. So the idea behind Universal Design for Learning, like I said, based on these three pillars, is to provide, one, multiple means of engagement. So that's the why of learning. That's going to help motivate your students. So when we talk engagement, that might mean designing varied, collaborative, interactive learning activities that play to the different strengths of your students. So giving them multiple types of videos or readings, things like that in the classroom, designing some group activities, maybe some individual activities, just different options for your students to learn. The second pillar is multiple means of representation, and that's your what of learning. So that's the skills that are going, or what's going to help your student gain the necessary knowledge or skills. So again, using different text, audio, video content, and using language and examples that your students can relate to. And this you might have heard in terms of diversity. We are talking about diversity and inclusion a lot this year, but remembering that everyone has a different background. So examples that might seem commonplace to you might not be commonplace to some of your students and might be unknown to others. So providing a lot of different examples that are real life examples that your students can relate to. And the last pillar is multiple means of expression. And that's the how of learning. And that's going to help your students accomplish their goal or fulfill the learning objectives. And for that, that's really how their output, right? How they show you that they've learned what they should have learned. So allowing them to express their knowledge in different ways. And that could be, maybe traditionally you give a paper in your class, and that could be giving them the option of a paper or a presentation or a video skit or a podcast for that same assignment. Later on, I think in a different session, we'll talk a little bit about how you can have all of those different types of assessments and still really assess them the same way, right? So if you have a rubric that says, you know, they must cover these 5 topics, well, they could do that in a paper, or they could do that in a video skit. And there really isn't a huge difference if they can show what they've learned. So with all of those kind of components, you've got this universal design. And the idea is a class that works for all students, where every student can be successful. So why does it matter? Well, UDL is not just accessibility. You notice in everything I talked about on the last slide, I wasn't talking about students who need accommodations or who need things made accessible for them. It's providing all students with a learning environment that's flexible, that removes barriers, which can lead then to increased participation, increased satisfaction in the class, and ultimately better student success. A benefit is that it will future-proof your class for potential accommodations. So if you've provided, let's say, different text options, different video options, audio options for things in your class, and you have a student who comes in and maybe needs text transcripts for something, then they have that option that's already there, it's already built in. So in providing that flexible learning environment for everyone, you've actually future-proofed yourself in the event that you have a student who needs an accommodation. And what can you do to start with universal design? Well, your first step, you're already doing it, is just to learn more about it and different ways you can implement it into your teaching. So congratulations, if you're here, you're already on the right track. And something else that I remind faculty is start small. It's a big topic. It's a lot of different components, and it can seem really daunting. So you don't have to implement every aspect of UDL on every different component right away. Start small, build as you go. And today we're going to talk about one tool that can help with one aspect of universal design, and that is Otter. And before we move on to Sandy's going to talk a little bit about Otter, does anybody have any questions about UDL or comments or feedback? No? Okay, feel free to interrupt at any time or type into the chat. We're monitoring that as well. So Sandy is going to talk about Otter.
All right, thanks. We're going to show you a tool that you can use in your universal design quest within your training. So Otter.ai. Otter.ai stands for, the AI stands for artificial intelligence. It's a company, a California-based technology company that develops the speech-to-text transcription applications. And there are many out there, but today we're just talking about Otter and this company. It shows captions for live speakers. It generates written transcriptions of the speeches, which really will come in handy if, you know, as Lauren mentioned, if you need to provide a transcript in any of your classes for the lectures that you do, for example. So how does it work? You use Otter. Otter listens to your voice conversations and it generates what they call smart notes. And you'll see that as we start working with it a little later. It's kind of like what you see on the screen here, but we're using a different program. This is just an example of what this artificial intelligence looks like when someone is speaking and actually creating a transcription for it. So basically, you can record live conversations. You can also import existing recordings into the Otter program, and then you can sync different meeting recordings all within the tool. Next slide. All right, so you need to know how you can get this program. Hopefully you're looking at it on your computer or on your phone. As with all software, there are different degrees of what you can do with the program, from basic to a premium or pro account. And we'll talk a little bit about basic because that's what you most likely will have. So if you look down the list at the basic, which is free, the most important thing you'll see down at the bottom is that with a free account, you can have 600 minutes of conversation or transcription. It does record in real time. You can export audio and text, and you can see basically all the features there of basic. You might look down to the last item in that feature, which was syncing Zoom cloud recordings, which would come in handy if you are doing a lot of Zoom recordings and you'd like to have the transcript to go along with them, as long as you stay within 40 minutes for each session and you don't go over the 600 minutes for a free account. And that's something that we have tested and used for a while. We've had an account where we got transcriptions from our Zoom recordings. So it's really nice, it's fun, and it's something that you can easily do. There are some limits, of course, with the basic account. There's a transcription limit of up to 600 minutes per month, which is what I mentioned just a little earlier. 40 minutes per transcription, and with file imports, you can import up to 3 audio or video files. So anything more than that, you'd have to get the premium account. Something to consider for your departments maybe going forward. If you all really like this tool, it may be something that your department may want to get. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Lauren, I think it's about $8 a month, or is it $50 a year? They have all different.
Yeah. So I'll talk for a moment about the difference between then the premium account and the Teams accounts. So the premium, if you're using an education account and they ask that you sign up with a .edu email address, that's $50 for the year. Normally $100 for a year. So that education discount is a 50% discount. That does provide 6,000 minutes a month. It also allows you to export PDF files and SRT files, which if any of you are super into video, you know that's a caption file. So you could actually import audio with a premium account, there is no limit on what you import. So let's say you have videos on your computer, videos that you create, you could actually import those into Otter and get a caption file from them. You can also export PDF that way. That's about all for premium. That's different. There is no limit on the number of minutes, how your duration for transcripts. So that's premium. We do have a premium account in online learning. If you have a specific use case, let's say you needed something, a video file transcribed that's longer than 40 minutes, you wanted to import, we could easily do that for you, but it's not traditionally a shared account just because of the nature of what it is that goes in there, which could be meeting notes or private notes or things like that. The Teams account is one level up from that. It's an additional fee. I believe, I'm not 100% sure. I want to say it's about $20 a month for that on top of your premium cost. And what that does is allow for this feature that does automated live transcribing in Zoom. So if you're recording a Zoom session, it hooks into Zoom and you can get live transcripts, kind of like what you're seeing now on the screen. What we're using now is built in through PowerPoint, but your students would have access to, if you're doing a class meeting, live transcripts. That also saves then into your Otter account. So you always have a transcript of recorded Zoom meetings. There are a few other Teams features that are more meant for kind of corporate and probably not education. That's the most salient one. And we are working with disability services to have access to a Teams account. That would be online learning and disability services, and potentially any instructors who had a student in their class who needed live transcription. So if a student who is deaf or hard of hearing is in a virtual class, currently what we do is pay for a live person to type captions during the session. This is a tool that, depending on the accuracy, and we'll show you that in a moment, could eliminate the need for that person being paid to sit in the class.
It is $20 per month for the Teams, and the premium version is $8.33 per month, billed annually, I will say. Okay, all right. So let's move on. If there are no other questions, we'll just go ahead and move on. If you want to open up this web link, you'll see what it looks like. And this is yours, Lauren, right? Yeah. It will show you what you'll see when you go into your Otter account. And this happens to be the notes area. So it's recording what I'm saying right now.
Yes. So I've had this running while we've been talking. Right. And so you'll see kind of this whole note. This will take a little while to transcribe. So I'll show you another note that I already have, and I'll show you a few features. It looks like we might have a note in the chat.
Oh, let me see here. I'll go right here. Chat.
Okay. So I'm going to just show you a note.
Yeah, this is what your dashboard looks like.
Yeah, when you log in, this is your dashboard. Let me stop recording. You'll see your recent activity, which is any notes that have been shared with you or recent notes. You'll see a few tips and tricks on the right-hand side. Something else you'll see is the type of account you have. So I'm logged into our personal account, not our premium account, because I want to show you what it will look like for you. It shows you how many minutes you have left and when those are set to reset. So it's monthly. Just to note that you can get a 1-month premium pass for referring someone to Otter. All you have to do is send an invite, and if they sign up, congratulations, you've gotten a free monthly pass. And you can continue to do that. So, you know, every month, just say, hey, Mom, do you want to try this? You know?
Right.
If I go into notes, I'm going to one that's shared with me. I shared these from my other account. Let's say you want to view an existing note or edit one. You click into it. And there's a few things to note. So you'll have the title there that you can easily edit. I can't edit this one because it was shared. You see these summary keywords. What's really neat is on the app and not on the web version for some reason, these can actually generate a word cloud. So you can see just a really cool image of key topics. That can be helpful as like a visual for if you're doing maybe an exam review, for example, and your students can easily see, okay, these are the key words, these are the topics that I need to pay attention to. Something else you'll see here is it's broken out by paragraph here, and you see it has my name. So this is the speaker, and if you click on that, you can actually change who that speaker was. So I know it was me, but let's say it got it wrong. I thought it was me, but it was really Sandy. All I do is click on Sandy's name and change it. I can also add a new speaker and say, oh no, that was Joe. Now, why this is important is because of that artificial intelligence. So anything that I have tagged, and they recommend a long passage, if I tag that as Lauren, now the system knows, okay, that's what Lauren's speech inflection looks like. That's how she pronounces certain words. And it will actually learn so that the next time I record something, it will automatically know it's me. Or if I tag that it's me, it will be able to fix any kind of mistakes that came up. It does take a while, but it gets better as we go. I always mention, if you're familiar with Meredith Kantz, I had uploaded probably about 50 of her videos into Otter. And now if she's in anything that I record, it immediately knows that it's her and there's minimal errors. Let's say that there is an error. You can fix that. You can edit these very easily.
I'm going to quickly
and you
show
do that. You're going to hear my voice because it will play the audio along with, so that you can hear what's happening and see the transcript so you know what to edit. So just be prepared for that. When I click on this, you're going to see a toolbar, and there are a few things in that toolbar. One of them is an edit button, one is a highlight button, and I believe there's share portion as well.
To quickly show you.
So here's highlight.
An example of
I can make a comment
and how
I can edit,
they have approached
I can copy
the course design.
I'm going to edit. I clicked on it once and I paused, so now I'm in, right? And let's say that this passage was wrong, or let's say it didn't catch the last thing I said. So I'm going to just type in the last thing I said. If I needed to delete part of it because I didn't say that, that wasn't right, you can just highlight and delete. You can backspace. It's like editing in Word. When you're all done making your edits, also, if you wanted to, let's say like this paragraph is way too big, I want to split it up a little bit more for my students, you put your cursor in front of where you want to make that break and just hit enter, and it breaks out into smaller paragraphs for you. So very simple to edit. And when you're all done, you click the big blue done button at the top. You can go back into edit as many times as you want. And yeah, I'm on that part now. Let me show you, this is shared with me, so I can't share from there. But let's say now I've edited it and I want to just send a link. I want to share it with people. Next to edit, there is a button for share. And it's very simple. You can add their email address and it'll send it right to them, or you can just click share a link. It'll create a web link for you. You can choose where to start it. So let's say maybe it's an hour-long exam review and one of your classes only needs the last 15 minutes. You know, you could say start it at, I don't think this one's that long, but you know, start it at 20 minutes in and just copy the link. Now that will send both the audio and this transcript along with it. And let's say you just want to get the file to share with your students, post in Blackboard, or copy and paste to go somewhere else. You'll click this ... your ellipses, and you can say you want to export the text or the audio. Exporting the audio will just give you an MP3 file. Exporting the text will give you this option of how you want to export it. Now with the free Otter account, you can export as a .text file or copy the text to your clipboard. Now you'll see with a premium account, you can export as a Word doc, a PDF, or a caption. There isn't a huge benefit to doing a Word doc or PDF because you can open a text file in Word and you can export it as a PDF yourself. So the only thing you're really missing out here is the ability to download as a caption file if that's something you'd be interested in. You can change the file name. So I could say training. You can choose if you'd like to include the speaker names or not. If it's just you doing a class recording, maybe you don't need to. You can choose whether you'd like it timestamped. This can be really helpful for a lot of reasons. If you're talking universal design, you could say, hey, about 10 minutes in is where I start to talk about this concept for class. It's also really helpful for students who are hard of hearing to be able to follow along and say like, okay, how long is this? Where was this discussed? You can also choose export as monologue and merge same speaker is kind of similar if it's the same speaker. So you see I click on that and now it's just one big block of text. If I take that off, now I see, okay, it's broken down into individual speakers. Then you would just click continue and it'll download to your computer. And you can open that up in Word and post it wherever you like. So Cindy, is there anything else you'd like to show them in Otter?
I think that covers all of the different features that they can use with the basic and a little bit of the premium. So I think we're good. I think we're good, unless anybody has anything else they'd like to see.
The only thing I will add is you can, if you have a lot of notes, you can organize them into different folders. So maybe if you wanted one for each class or one for personal, one for work, you could do that. Like I mentioned, you can share with people. That will actually put you into a group with them. So you can see all of the notes that you shared with that person. So that's a convenient feature. And then apps are different apps that tie in to Otter. So I'm sorry if you guys can't hear me. I'm getting a note that my connection's unstable.
No, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yep.
As Sandy mentioned, Zoom, but you do need a pro Zoom account. So that's an important note. If you're not sure if that's what you have, you can, and it's through Northampton, you can check with IT about that. And then this is your account settings. Your voice print is kind of your training. So before you start with Otter, or at any time, you can actually teach Otter your voice. They have this little prompt, you record, and it takes note of how you say certain things, and it gets to know your voice pattern that way too. So
it's kind of like Siri. If you have Siri, it gets used to your voice.
So there is getting started information as well on the Otter website. It's Otter.ai/starter guide. Basically goes through the different things that I just showed you, but how to start a recording, how to review and edit, adding photos if you want to add photos within different integrations. So that's something you can check out, and that's linked in the presentation as well.
Yeah, that's a good link to bookmark and keep handy for when you really start using it.
Yeah. So before we're going to break you into groups, but before I do that, I do want to just kind of come back and talk about why you would want to use Otter. So we talked about accessibility a little bit, providing transcripts to go with video or audio content that you create. that would create an accessible option for students who are deaf or hard of hearing. And as we discussed earlier in regard to universal design for learning, providing a text option actually allows for students to choose how they want to engage with your course content. So for example, a student who is a commuter, who maybe is taking a bus or public transportation, they might choose to listen to the audio option because they can just put in their headphones and they can listen to that. But someone who's studying in a public place, you know, maybe not during COVID, but if they're at the library and they don't have headphones, they might need a text document that they can read because they're not going to be able to listen to that audio. And some students might want both. Like I always give the example, I have ADHD. I need text to go along with the audio or I get lost. So I have to kind of have both to follow along. And the text transcripts also make for a great notes guide or review sheets for your students. So even if you're not thinking accessibility or universal design, you know, your students are always going to ask, what's on the exam? What's on the exam? Tell me what's on the exam. And you can say, here's a document. And it might just be notes from classes you've already done. Here's what's on the exam. Another kind of switching gears, fun use case for Otter. An instructor piloted this in the spring. Ultimately, none of her students took this option, but they had the option to do a podcast for one of their projects. They could either create a website or a podcast. And we taught them how to use Otter to do a podcast. And all that was an audio recording, right? So not super high quality audio, not a professional setup, just download this on your phone, talk to it. And that was great because she then had a text transcript that she would be able to grade, and she would know exactly what they said. They could easily share that recording. So the biggest thing with podcasts is, where do you put it? How do you share it with people? Well, with Otter, you just download a link. Like, here's your link. You can share that, send it out to anyone. And now not only do they have a podcast, but it's an accessible podcast. So a lot of podcasts out there don't come with text transcripts. So if you're deaf or hard of hearing, you don't get to enjoy that. So it was also teaching students about accessibility. All right, so how will you use Otter? We're going to break you into groups and give you about 10 to 15 minutes. And we want you to come up with, well, first we want you to test the tool. So if you have not yet downloaded Otter, I think we've had one person join us. If you have not yet downloaded Otter, you can search for Otter in your app store, whether it's Google or Apple, or you can go to Otter.ai on the Otter website and sign up with your Microsoft credentials, which are your NCC email and password. Test out the tool. You know, you can test it with each other and come up with one idea, one unique idea in your group of how you think you might want to use this in your class.
I'll make 3 rooms, Lauren.
Okay. Sounds
okay. Well, and how much time? We'll give you maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Is 10 minutes okay? All right. So we'll put you in a room for 10 minutes, brainstorm together how you'll use it in your class. And hopefully one of you will be able to you check it out and record something. Okay, here we go. And we'll pop through the rooms.
Do you need me to jump into one of these, Sandy?
Go ahead. Go into number 3, please.
Okay.
I'll go into 2, Lauren's in 1. Thanks, Joe.
We're back.
Ah, how was that? How'd you like that?
That was good.
Good.
I used breakout sessions for my students. It's the first time that I was on the receiving end of that. So,
Well, I think I was in 2 rooms. I didn't come into yours, Lauren, because I figured you had it totally
Yeah.
under control and could answer the questions. I have to tell you something interesting, though. Sunshine, you and Bill had the same. Were making the same comments because I was in the one room. You were talking about, G was talking about too. So we're going to task you two to come and talk about your best practices after you're using Otter in ESL classes. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
That is
Okay.
interesting because Lynette
Yeah.
is also an ESL.
Ah,
We had a lot of ESL conversations, it sounds like.
it sounds like it. And this, what more than a perfect tool to use in ESL to record students and see what they're saying. So I think that's very successful. And were you using it before, any of you in ESL? Were you using any types of programs like this one?
Not me.
Oh.
No.
Okay. So, all right.
Does anyone want to share their experience with testing the tool or a unique idea they came up with in their group?
Did anyone have it running in any of your groups, Lauren? I didn't. No one in my groups were using the program.
I couldn't multitask.
You couldn't
I
multitask.
would much rather chat. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Lynette and Daniel were testing it out.
Oh, good.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, learning the difference between pausing and stopping, because my nature is to stop, but that just completely, finishes
you
your
out.
note and throws you out of your little transcript. So learning how to use pause instead.
Right.
And I was saying to Lauren that it would be really helpful for my students to have this app on their phone or have this app on their own computers, because so much of what they do in my class, if they are trying to get a lot of words out and they're trying to create a conversation, it's in some ways less intimidating if they can just speak as opposed to having to write out everything.
Right.
So it would be in some ways a time saver, but also I think it would give them the ability to work with a lot more of their ideas.
now I agree. I was thinking that this is a tool better used for those students who really want this, rather than the instructor using the tool and providing to everybody, maybe 1 or 2 students use it.
Mm-hmm. Good. Any other observations or ways that you think you'll be using it?
I think in our group, we talked about students are so focused on taking notes that they're
Right.
going to miss something. And I think this takes that emphasis off of that you have to write down every single word an instructor says. And then you can focus on more of the dynamics that are happening within the classroom than jotting down the notes, knowing that you're going to get a copy of those after the fact. And I think that takes a lot of pressure off people. We also talked about the ESL rule.
That's a great point.
The ESL kind of context where we're speaking and we're seeing the words at the bottom of the screen, or when they replay that transcript and the later on, and the words are being highlighted as they're being said. And I think that leaves the students the opportunity. We hear the word, we saw the word, we know how it's pronounced. We can use those context clues to identify the meaning of that specific word. So I think all of those things are wonderful, and different ways we can use them, within the classroom. And then you get to the GED component where there's those steps to solving a math problem. Okay, so we can show it and we can demonstrate it, but it's nice to know that we can then break those steps down, further within the transcript, and then that goes along with the demonstration. So we really had great conversations around that, and I think moving forward, this is something we really need to consider.
That's great.
Hey, I just had an observation, and sorry, Bill, you were just providing this content right now, and I don't mean to diss you at all, but during your conversation, you said, a couple of times, like maybe times, and I'm watching the running subtitles that are happening at the moment, and it did not put in the subtitles. It actually knew enough not to actually put that little in there.
Mm-hmm. An interesting thing that Lynette brought up, as Joe says that he's watching the subtitles and probably not looking at Bill as he's talking, was, will students be distracted? Are they going to be looking at if I have this running live, are they going to be looking at that and not looking at what's on the slide for them? And, it was, it could go either way, right? It could be really helpful for students to follow along. And for some students, it might be a distraction. With the Otter for Teams version that does the live transcript, it's not built right in. They do have to kind of click on a link and they can pull it up in like a little pop-up. So it's a good option, right? If you're somebody who knows you need it, it's there. If you don't want it or you think it's a distraction, you don't have to look at it. So that's just my 2 cents there.
No, that's a good point.
Good addition.
Yeah, very good. I don't like looking at captioned movies, if it's, a foreign movie, and looking at that distracts me. But if it's something like this, I may glance down just to pick up different words that I might have missed. But other than that, I probably wouldn't.
I have captions on all of my TV
Do
that
you?
I watch. Yeah.
Same. I can't miss anything, but I can do both. I'm not distracted by it.
I'm an auditory person, so that's my first sense. So I guess maybe that's why.
No.
Isn't that interesting? We're all different. See, we all learn in different ways. So our students are, need to have the same advantage. All right. So do we have any other questions? Anything else? Lauren, any other?
No, so I do want to let you know that our, the college's theme this year is diversity and inclusion. And in that vein, the instructional design team and online learning have decided to focus pretty heavily on universal design and accessibility as a component to that diversity and inclusion. So we will be running more sessions on universal design. We might get more into it, and we'll also be talking about more accessibility tools. So for example, as I teased at the beginning, those live subtitles that you see right now are something that's built into PowerPoint. And Joe had asked me privately earlier, is this the client or the web version? So Joe, this is the Office 365 client on my computer. The PowerPoint online version does this as well. And Sandy and I will also be doing a session, I think. I haven't asked her yet, but we're going to do a session on this and PowerPoint Live, which is a PowerPoint presentation that runs similar to Kahoot. So students can join on their phone through a code, and it does basically this. They can navigate the slides. They can see the slide that you're on, and it generates a transcript automatically as everyone's speaking. So another fun, interactive, accessible presentation tool.
Yeah, Microsoft is becoming very, very fluent in these types of materials, especially in the new Microsoft 365. There's a lot. So look for some more classes coming on these types of things like Lauren mentioned.
Yep. And then here's just some resources. The first, and these will be posted. I'm not sure if they'll be on the CTLT site, but there's also a faculty lounge that we're building in Blackboard that will house recordings of all of these transcripts and resources. So keep an eye out for that. But the first is UDL guidelines from CAST. That's that initial Universal Design for Learning chart that I showed you at the beginning. The rest are mostly just articles on universal design. If you're not familiar with it, just some helpful tips. So that will be posted in Blackboard. And that's all we have.
Yeah. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you need any assistance with any of this. We're hoping that you will, work a little bit with Otter and let us know how it's going. And thank you all for being here today.
Well, thank you.
Enjoy the rest
you.
of your week and have a great semester.
Yep,
Thank
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, Lauren.
You're welcome.
We're going to stop recording, but we'll stay on if anybody wants to stay on.